So today I'll be doing a introduction of parasitology. So to begin with, what is parasitology? Parasitology is the study of parasites, their hosts, and the relationship between them. It is also a branch that focuses on the understanding of the life cycle and characteristics of the parasite. Moving on to the types of parasites, there are three types of parasites. Firstly, protozoas. Protozoas are single-celled organisms that can multiply within the host. For example, Plasmodium species, which can cause malaria. The transmission mode for this parasite could be contaminated water or through vectors like mosquito. Secondly, helminthes. These are worm-like organisms that are present within the host. For example, nematode, trematode, and castodes. The mode of transmission for this type of parasite could be ingestion of the larva or the eggs in contaminated food. And the last one is ectoparasites. These are parasites that live on the surface of the host. For example, lice, flies, and mites. The mode of transmission for this type of parasites could be direct contact to the host and exposure to the environment where these ectoparasites live. Moving on to the characteristics of parasite. Firstly, dependency on a host. So the parasites usually depend on the host for survival, obtaining its nutrients, shelter, and also a place to reproduce. This dependency often leads to a complex relationship between the host and the parasite. Secondly, complex life cycle. So a parasite's life cycle can be complex due to the multiple stages involved and sometimes more than one host involved. For example, intermediate and definitive hosts. Thirdly, specialized attachment structures. Parasites usually have specific adaptations in order for them to attach to or to invade the host. For instance, tapeworms, they have hook and suckers type structure that helps them to anchor to the intestinal walls of the host. Moving on to the transmission modes. Firstly, direct contact. So the parasite or the transmission of the parasite can occur when the host comes in direct contact with the parasite. Secondly, through ingestion, which can be ingestion of the ova or the egg of the parasite through contaminated food. Lastly, vector-borne transmission. This is when the parasite is transmitted through an infected vector such as mosquito or tick. The parasite that it can possibly transmit, or an example of a parasite that is vector-borne transmitted is malaria. Plasmodium species, which can cause malaria. For the diagnosis of the parasitic infections, it can be stool examination, blood test, endoscopy, and colonoscopy. And lastly, it can be the serological test and PCR. Now, moving on to the treatments and preventions. So for treatment, there's antiparasitic medications. So different drugs is specific for different parasites. Moving on to the prevention. Firstly, hygiene and sanitization. It is important to keep yourself clean. For example, through washing hands. So once you come in contact with raw soil, or if you're outside, when you come back in, wash your hands so that it prevents the ingestion of parasitic eggs and cysts. Secondly, vector control. This can be done to help control the breeding of the infected the vectors that can be infected and then transmit the parasite. Another preventive measure could be drinking safe water or having a safe drinking water. That means avoiding contaminated water that could consist of the parasite, which can lead to parasitic infection. So in conclusion, parasitology is a critical field that focuses on the study of parasites, their hosts, and the complex interaction and the connection between them. Parasites have evolved in many ways which allow them to live in different environmentals and sometimes at the expense of the hosts.